going to teach you a quick and easy way to spot crappy cat behavior advice because, shockingly, not everything you read on the internet is true. And there's one Jupiter-sized red flag that I see over and over and over again that you can easily pick out as a sign that you should be skeptical of whatever the video is talking about. I'm going to explain why it's so problematic, and I'm also going to teach you some fun things about cat behavior along the way. Let's come up with a scenario you might find yourself in as an example. You might be watching a video about cats, and the person who made the video included some information about cat behavior. They might say something along the lines of, use a treat to encourage a behavior that you want the cat to do using positive reinforcement, and then use a spray bottle on the cat to stop a behavior that you don't want using negative reinforcement. Well, using a spray bottle is actually not a good method of behavior modification. That's actually not the red flag. In order to understand the problem, you need to understand a very basic behavioral science concept that I'm going to explain to you in a no-fluff way in under 45 seconds. Ready? Go! When something happens to a cat and it changes their behavior, we can sort it into one of four groups based on what happened to the cat and how the behavior was changed. It can be classified as either positive or negative, which does not mean good or bad. Positive means that something was added, negative means something was taken away. It can be further classified based on the effect on the cat's behavior. If the behavior decreases, we call it punishment. If it increases, we call it reinforcement. Bam! That's all you needed to know. Not too painful, right? Have you figured out what the red flag is already? If not, I'm going to point it out, and then we'll talk about why it's such a big problem. Remember in the example that the advice was to use a spray bottle to stop a behavior using negative reinforcement. Think back to a few seconds ago when we talked about how negative means something was removed and reinforcement means a behavior is increased. In other words, negative reinforcement means that something was removed and the behavior we're talking about in the cat increased. That's the very basic definition of both of those terms. I'm going to absolutely blow your mind with this one. Using a spray bottle on a cat can either be positive punishment or positive reinforcement. Yes, positive reinforcement. The behavior that you're targeting can actually increase because if the cat likes the attention that they're getting or they see it as a fun game, that behavior is going to increase because they like it. The action is classified based on the cat's behavior and how they respond, and if the target behavior increases or decreases, not based on good or bad, or not based on our intentions. Even if the spray bottle actually succeeds in decreasing the behavior, that's still not negative reinforcement. It's positive punishment because something was added in, the spray and the stress, and then the cat's behavior decreased. Negative reinforcement would mean that the behavior increases. An example of negative reinforcement would be a cat biting you, and then the cat becoming more likely to bite you again because you stopped petting them and they were annoyed by that. It would have the effect of a positive punishment on you if you stopped petting your cat as much. Am I just being a nerd about this and getting a little bit too pedantic about the terms that people are using? I absolutely am a nerd, but the reason that this is such a big red flag is that whoever is giving out the advice doesn't understand a basic behavioral concept. They likely don't have a great grasp on behavioral modification, and they may not understand things like that a spray bottle can be positive reinforcement in some cases. If someone is giving out behavior advice, they should understand the basics of learning theory, including the difference between positive punishment and negative reinforcement, and that negative reinforcement means a behavior increases. They may not understand that there are more effective methods out there that can get you better results and are kinder. Cat behavior is really complicated, so you want to listen to people who know what they're talking about and really understand the complex things that go through a cat's mind. So next time you hear someone reference negative reinforcement when talking about cat behavior, ask yourself if something was removed and if the behavior increased, and if they're saying that the behavior increased or if they're saying that negative reinforcement decreased the behavior. If they don't get that right, you should look somewhere else for cat behavior advice.